So you touched on there that to actually do good HR, we do need people, data and analytics. I think for some of our listeners who maybe aren't as deep in the space as you and me, why is people, data and analytics so important and becoming more important as well?
So in the profession now, we talk about evidence-based practice. And in the last 3 years at CIPD, we've been looking very closely at how we can incorporate the idea of evidence-based practice into the HR profession and to encourage HR practitioners to start to use more different forms of evidence in their decision making. And in the School of Evidence-Based Practice, this idea of being evidence-based is all about incorporating 4 forms of evidence. One is evidence from scientific research, research from academics who look at the theories and the phenomenon of work around practices that work in organizations, and in particular how those practices influence outcomes. So that's evidence in the form of scientific literature. Data and analytics around workforce data is another form of evidence. It's the second form of evidence. It can come in different forms of data, but it's data that's captured on systems within the organization. The third form of data is this idea of insights from the stakeholders who will be most impacted by decisions that we make. So in HR, that would be the perspectives of workers or employees. That's another form, very important form of evidence that we use in decision making. And finally is the one that we see HR professionals almost forgetting sometimes, but it's a very important form of evidence. It's their professional expertise. It's what they've seen previously and what they've used in their decision making historically. What kind of things they've seen through their practice. Particularly senior HR professionals will draw a lot on their expertise and a lot from what they've seen historically to inform their decisions.
We talked a lot about business outcomes and explained that people analytics is one of the 4 types of evidence-based decision making that HR professionals can use. Can you think of a couple of really good examples from your experience of how organisations have actually done that?
Sure. So one example that I like to talk about a lot is the work of Greg Aitken at RBS, who took a very methodical, research-based approach to looking at engagement in the branch network at RBS. And they were very clear in wanting to understand the link between engagement in their branch network of those bank branches serving customers. What are their enablers of good customer service and good performance outcomes? And through their work in the branches, by working with their key stakeholders in the branches, as well as collecting live data on engagement of employees and customer service data from those different branches, they were able to locate the best performing managers who they could then parachute into parts of the organization where engagement was low. Now, to me, that's a very simple methodology in terms of putting it on paper, and the data probably already exists or existed in their data sets to be able to do this kind of work. So it wasn't as if they were having to redefine a lot of the measures that they were collecting. So it's already there, they've already got access to it. It's all about thinking of the question. It's all about what was the question that they wanted to answer. In my view, the question is the most important part of what we do in analytics. And the RBS case study, I think, really highlights that if you have a good question, such as what are the forms of engagement that are leading to good performance in our branches, you can start to then really look closely at what's working in the organization. Too often I see HR practitioners getting stuck because they haven't defined a good question, they haven't defined a set of measures that they want to measure against that question. And they've always gone too quickly into doing the analysis instead of stepping back and working with their stakeholders to work out actually what is the question you're trying to answer. So RBS, that case is public and it's available. Greg often talks about it at conferences. It's a really wonderful description of how you can use a simple measure like engagement to look at something that's very much a business priority to RBS, which is customer service.
In this series, we will be speaking to a range of senior leaders who are pushing a data-driven and digital HR agenda. Make sure that you subscribe via your podcast app of choice and also via our YouTube channel for free and regular interviews with the digital HR leaders of the future.